Hey class, hope you're all doing well. I've really enjoyed seeing all of you guys' presentations as this module has gone along. And finally, it's my turn to present my topic. I was given inclusivity in TV. Essentially, what I'll be hitting on is determining whether or not the industry has gotten to the point where it is successful enough in showing minorities or not. And if not, how can they do it better? And what ways can they implement this group of people into television more than they already have? To start off, I think it's really important to discuss the fact that inclusiveness in television has looked a variety of different ways throughout time. Sometimes it's been barren in the past, one race, one gender. Other times it's looked like a mix of different people within a minority group. But what about now? The easiest way to describe this is that as a society, we have improved in displaying minority groups, but that certainly doesn't mean that it is 100% great by any means. The CEO of Nielsen Analytics put it a perfect way when he said, but presence is not the same as inclusion, and there are many opportunities for improvement. Minorities should not be placed in roles under the pretense that their inclusion is only to fill a quota, but rather because they are considered best for the role. The idea of inclusiveness within television will always be a fight until the entertainment industry can sort of put this point of view into play and action and use people according to their talents rather than what they're supposed to do. Like I mentioned before, there has certainly been improvement within diversity and inclusion as of late, but that is only because certain people throughout history have shifted focus and really spoken up for minorities. I think it's really important to discuss the NAACP's president that was in office in July of 1999. That was Kwasi Mfume. It's important to mention the fact that while he was glancing over the fall schedule for the four major broadcast networks' new shows of the season, he found that out of the 26 new comedies and dramas, none of them had any minority performer in a leading or prominent role. Obviously, this really made him upset. And so, in order to kind of have a snowball effect within the industry and to make things change, he combined with the National Hispanic Media Coalition to give a regular report cards grading the movement. His fight might not have ended the unfair realities of whitewashing completely, but it certainly turned heads for for people in charge, and lots of people say that this was the turning point for minorities within the TV industry. We've learned a lot about the four C's in this class, and those are content, conduit, consumption, and conversion. Essentially, what I wanted to talk about in terms of the four C's was the popularity of streaming and how much it has improved over the years and how much people have started to use it over the years. In fact, in July of 2022, streaming viewership overtook cable for the first time in history. Conduit is the distribution of the entertainment product. So essentially, how is it being shared and how are people seeing this content? As far as streaming goes, this would be a computer or a TV that you look at a streaming service through. Now, streaming represents a 34.8% share of total television consumption in the US, and that trails behind cable and broadcast. Now we're going to take a few minutes to look into some recent studies that have been taken in order to see the inclusiveness of minorities within TV entertainment. Nielsen recently did a study on minority roles within television. Their results showed that streaming services have considerably more diverse talent than other television programs, as we mentioned in the last slide. Essentially, the study tracked the top 100 most viewed programs in 2019, broadcast, cable, and streaming platforms. What it found was that of the 100 most viewed programs in 2019, 92% have some form of diversity, which is way different than you've seen in the past. Specifically, women have a 48.9% share of screen on streaming platforms, as opposed to 33.1% on broadcast and 37.8% on cable. Interestingly, Black talent accounts for the highest total share of screen among any racial minority at 18% compared to their total population estimate in the US, which is 14%. Also, Women still only have 38% share of screen, and that decreases as they get older. 8% of women over 50 years old share a screen presence, even though they account for 20% of the population and 20% of TV viewers. To give a little comparison, men in the same age range make up 17% of screen time. So essentially, women and people of color are the two most focused on minority groups, yet they still need so much improvement. Another study that I wanted to hit on was one that Netflix paid for between 2018 and 2019 when they released their first of its kind diversity study. This report was conducted by Stacy Smith, who has a PhD in communications and human development. She's the founder and director of the USC Annenberg Inclusive Initiative, which is considered the leading think tank of the world in terms of diversity and inclusion. So she had a lot of credibility in what she was doing. Essentially, it was measured on the basis of 22 different inclusion methods. Some of those included things like racial identities, LGBTQ, and disabilities. Astonishingly, 19 of 22 showed improvement over the 2-year span. What they did find is that the exceedingly proportional representation of Black leads in main cast throughout many of their series is going up more than it has in the past. An area for which they can improve would be Latinx and LGBTQ demographics because, according to the study, both of these groups showed 4% of leads in film and 1% in television. And then also, Netflix could work on disabilities and having those people be presented in their shows because they have 1% of series leads and 5% of series main casts. The last study that I wanted to mention on top of the Nielsen and Netflix studies was one that UCLA conducted as it released its TV-focused portion of its annual Hollywood Diversity Report. In this particular study, they examined 453 scripted shows across broadcast, cable, and digital platforms from 2017 to 2018, and then 463 scripted shows across the same platforms for the 2018 and 2019 season. Much like the previous two other reports, this one found that people of color women are still underrepresented. The same case was shown for people of color in all three tested categories, and women were the same in all but one. In addition, Asian descent was made up of only 1.7%, 3.1%, and 1.8% of lead roles in broadcast, cable, and digital shows. For instance, top TV executives are still 92% white and 68% male. So in order for that to all change, as far as these studies go, there needs to be an implementation of a plan, and we will hit on that in just a little bit. On this side, I just wanted to give you guys a list of examples of powerful Black producers and performers, as I'm aware that most of this presentation has hit on ways in which this industry can improve. I think it's important to celebrate some of the ways in which the industry of TV has really had some trendsetters come in and make a way for themselves. So take a second to look at this slide and admire some of those performers and producers who have paved the way for the rest. And now the fun part begins. Let's take all the information that has been discussed in the previous slides and put it into how marketing can change the industry for the better. The World Economic Forum put out an article in 2021 discussing ways in which the entertainment industry can be more diverse, yet also see equitable gains from their actions. Since the overall population is expecting a cultural change towards representing minorities rather than using those individuals simply because it is what they're supposed to do, seeing impartial monetary gains is an understandable desire. So the first way that marketers can do this is by starting at the top. When diverse individuals are placed into leadership and decision-making roles, diverse stories are more likely to be told. It's just like a pyramid. If it starts at the top, it will trickle its way down, and that is very important in terms of letting diverse minorities into this industry as much as they should be allowed. Another way that marketers can have their way in allowing minorities to become more prominent in the TV industry is by enabling discourse and learning. Content can be consumed in so many ways now. It has so many conduits for which it can be shared, such as social media, news articles, press releases, trailers, commercials, you name it. So it's extremely important that marketers use this opportunity to share truths to the world about why it is important to include everyone in the entertainment industry, especially in TV. The last way, but considerably the most important way for marketers to enhance the role of minorities within the television industry is the importance of promoting accurate portrayals. For instance, Hispanic and Latinx viewers often see themselves surrounded by themes of dysfunction and melodrama on screen. Black women can't seem to stray away from narratives of rivalry, investigations, and personal relationships. Additionally, even white women are normally casted in programs that discuss friendship, love, and family homes. Even though these minority groups are physically seen on TV, their representation can certainly use some work. As for people of color, members of LGBTQ, etc., people with disabilities, it's very important that they are no longer conforming to their stereotypes that have been given to them. Minorities should be portrayed for who they are as individuals, not presented in such a way that is meeting a quota for how a group of people is supposed to be seen. In conclusion, inclusiveness in television is not exactly yet where it needs to be. Now, there has been some commendable growth made by individuals devout to the cause, and yes, that should certainly be celebrated. But until intentions are shifted to understand that minorities should be represented on the basis that they are fit for the job, not just for a production company to look good to the audience or to pull a publicity stunt, there's always going to be room to grow. Many studies, like the ones that I have gone over in this presentation, show that there is still more work to be done. But essentially, when it all comes together, it boils down to the fact that the people that will set aside their fears of disapproval and act upon what they know to be right and just will change this industry for the better. Until then, we will not get to be where we need to be. When we do those things and when we shift our focus towards the realities of what we're fighting for, then we will be there and we will have made progress in terms of inclusiveness in TV. Well, class, that is all that I have for you today. Here is a list of references for the information that I presented to you throughout this PowerPoint. I hope that you enjoyed the presentation and learned a little bit about the inclusiveness of TV and will continue to learn about this study as there is so much to be learned. And thank you guys. Have a good rest of your day.